All right. Hello and welcome everyone to another of the builds refreshes for 2022. Today we're talking about Volt. Now, Volt is one of the more used frames in Warframe. He's way up there in the tops, and it's not just because Volt is a starter. If you look at the usage, Volt Prime is used quite a bit by a lot of higher MR players and such. And honestly, I don't know if that's just, the popularity of people liking him as a starter and then like converting into the Prime variant and there being like pretty good access to Volt Prime just in general and Volt's builds being pretty easy to put together, like kind of being the thing, because I have never really been super attached to Volt and I have never really thought of him as being super meta for much besides, of course, Eidolons, which we'll talk about. So I'm curious, if you happen to be a Volt player, what are you using him for? Is it really just Eidolons? Is his play rate for Volt Prime, of course, that high? Just raw people doing Eidolons because there's so much like waiting around happening in that mission? Or are you using him for other stuff? Like, is he your go-to for ESO? What's the deal? I'm actually very curious to find out what you're using Volt for in the comments, because in this video, we're going to go over two things that I feel like he's generally pretty used for. And that's what's up. First and foremost, Eidolons. This is like the Eidolon build I would run in with Volt. It's pretty basic. It uses Shock Trooper for a lot more damage. Obviously, we have a lot of duration for our electric shield because we want to shoot through that with our operator, and also whenever we're destroying Zenobia, ideally, depending on how we're doing it. And we have, good efficiency. We're using Energize, we're using Arcane Nullifier so we don't get magnetic procced. We're using Vigorous Swap just for like the extra damage because there's not really much else you need for Eidolons, and this can be any number of other mods for just general gameplay. This build converts really easily into just playing Volt in regular content, but generally speaking, it's just easy to run. We've got Roar instead of R4 because your 4 is obviously not useful for Eidolons at all, and Roar is just a generic damage bonus that's solid and affects your whole squad, which is always good. There are, of course, other things that you can use. You can go with Mirage's ability. You can do Dispensary for just energy for everybody. Like, there's plenty of stuff that this could be. There's quite a few good options on any frame that builds duration strength. And he's got a lot of good options. Roar is always a great one. Hard to go wrong with Roar as long as you've got decent stats for it. So this is just doing Eidolons Volt. I will say, for me personally, if I was going to solo Eidolons, I know that Volt is faster, but also stuff like Wisp and even Trinity are probably going to be like more casual friendly. And if you're not really trying to max out that speed and like absolutely get those 5x3s and you're doing it on like a much more chill level, probably Volt is not the way to go. He's definitely like the trying very hard, getting as many runs into these Eidolons as possible before night ends. Like, that's what you're going for with Volt in general, and that's what this is for. With that, we do have another build. Thievery is some hilarious outdated stuff whenever we farmed lockers, so ignore that. But we have the ESO build. So this is what we have for the ESO build, and I will note for this build, it is worth noting that not Transient Fortitude, and instead, if you wanted to Forma for Umbral Intensify, that would be better. For me personally, I'm not going to put the Umbral Forma in to swap like this Intensify to the Umbral one and to swap Transient Fortitude to it. That's just not worth it to me. But that is a strict upgrade for both builds if you want to put the Umbral Forma in. Very simple change to do. And on this build especially, he will appreciate the additional duration because if you're taking this into Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, you will be hounded by Samaris because, of course, if you do it too fast, if you hit your 4 too much, he's going to tell you you can't use your 4 anymore. And that's the ability you're trying to use to clear and kill everyone. So that's very bad when that happens. But yeah, for ESO in general, Volt is not my pick. I think a lot of Warframes do it better than him, but he's an easy to get Warframe that can do it. And this build is really not too bad to put together. Obviously, we are over Forma'd for this build. It's actually only a 2 Forma build, as you can see pretty easily. And of course, like, there are corners to cut on this, especially if you're going to be running just regular SO. Augur Message is not needed. Like, just dropping stuff off here and there. You can really easily put together a lower level version of this build, and regular Sanctuary Onslaught will be absolutely evaporated by this. And I think that's actually probably the better place for it, because in Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, you get options like Saren, which work better with the higher level enemies, but Volt works better at killing lower level enemies because he doesn't need anything to like build up. He just does the damage that he does. And whenever that evaporates everybody, that works out great for Volt. We are also using Molt Augmented on here. Not necessary at all, but more strength as you kill more guys is, of course, going to be very good whenever the whole point of the build is to use strength and range to kill a bunch of dudes. So yeah, that's like what's up with Volt. Worth noting that this build also is like pretty decent for just like generally having the speed buff going. Just getting, you know, like your nice boost, just generally being boosted up, throwing your shields up, and just having Roar and like using Shock Trooper, and like those two damage bonuses multiply one another. So like that's great. It's good stuff, but like it's very generally useful. I had a hard time finding like a particular thing that Volt is doing besides Eidolons, because of course in Eidolons this shield is the only Warframe ability in the game that buffs operators, because when operators shoot through it, you get more crit damage. That's the only thing that you can use as a Warframe to buff operators, and that's the reason why Volt is taken to those missions generally. And without that, I really don't think that he probably would be taken to them at all. But he has that reserved seat because of the weird inconsistency DE's on with that. And this ability is just generally good. Like, we're going to use it just to kill these guys. It's not going to be a problem at all. You can pick it up, though. I wouldn't suggest that. Probably just having the very large shield is always going to be better. But yeah, just 30 speed on. Throw this on. Give yourself the old buff. Throw a shield up and be like, fuck him. Like, you can't be damaged through this. So, like, get him. Like, whatever it takes. Throw some glaives, get some of that enhanced speed going, run around, have a good time. Like, it's like there's everything here for like a play style. Like, just playing this way doesn't really have any, like, there's no real big downsides to it, and like it's nice and fast. Like, I can see like there's some parallels with like what people might enjoy about like Wukong being able to do things quick here. But yeah, like I feel like that can't be all that it is. So let me know what you're doing with Volt. What's making him used so much? Because I would love just general input on that stuff. No Steel Path run for him, because like, yeah, it's just going to be me at the end of a hallway with this shield up, shooting the gun through it. Like, you know what it is. That's what it is. And that's, you know what it is. This is more of a video about like, hey, this is Volt's Eidolons build, and like that's what people will take to it probably, with some minor adjustments here and there, I'm sure. But yeah. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing with Volt? What's the deal? Hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you tomorrow.